At the highest level of chess, one single mistake in the opening and you simply lose the game. It's very obvious in this particular game now, game number 11, in between Boris Spassky, the legend Boris Spassky, and Bobby Fischer. They played in 1972. But also, yesterday, I've seen, for instance, Hikaru Nakamura Pragnananda. I also did a video. Go and check out that video in the Nimzo Indian. One mistake in the opening actually costs an elite player the game itself. Now, we're going to look at Sicilian Najdorf. Boris Spassky here played with the white pieces. Bobby Fischer was with black, and everything went absolutely fine until to a specific move. And I'm going to indicate, I think it's 18 move. We're going to discuss about that one in depth, in detail, as much as we can. Of course, we can't stay half a day here. So let's develop our pieces. D6 here, of course, you could have played knight C6, the open classical Sicilian, of course. But D6 had been chosen. D4, going for the center, takes, captures, knight F6. So these are the theoretical book moves that we all know, we are aware, and that's what automatically play when we do this with white or black. And A6 now, obviously, that's the knight of right here, ladies and gents. Preparing possibly a B5. Possibly you may play an E6, an E5. If you want to go a little bit more Sveshnikov, you could just go E5, but that's not what happened. So bishop G5 now, quite aggressively going for the knight, and E6 here. E6 being played at this stage. So there is a bit of a backward pawn on D6, but not that much of a problem for the time being. It's okay because E6 move also takes away any D5 from the white knight if they want to play there. Not a problem. So F4, expanding, taking space on the king side. Queen to B6. Now queen to B6. Moving away from the pin. So let's just understand this one. Just goes away from the pin. And something else. Looks at the B2 pawn here. So you not need to panic now and to go into, oh, how am I supposed to defend this one? What do I do? Just don't panic. Play like Boris Spassky. There is a very good move you could play just on the spot. That is queen to D2. Okay, you're defending those guys. You have no problem. Let them take if they want to play, because this variation is known as the poison pawn variation of the Sicilian Najdorf, with queen capturing on b2. So again, no need to panic. Two main moves here that white can play on the spot. You could either play rook to b1, not a problem. So I'm going to give you the two main moves favored. Rook to b1, queen to e3. Or you may just very well play knight to b3, taken away from the squares, retreating squares from the queen. And you can play like this, knight to b3. Not a problem. Queen to a3. Bishop takes. And now pawn has to take. Okay, so that's the position. Fairly equal here, so not a big deal, not a problem. That's been played countless times for people with great expertise, strong grandmasters. That's been played over and over and over again. Not a problem whatsoever. The position is equal, my friends. Not a problem. Bishop to e2. Of course, you may want to get that bishop involved. All the pieces must be involved. Just look at a position. Black still needs to invest a little bit of tempi to getting those minor pieces to actually develop and attack themselves. H5, though, being favored, not a problem. Again, just in the hypothetical scenario, white would dream about castling short. This guy is really menacing coming down. So H5 wants to say, just be careful with your king. If you castle short, you might get in trouble. Also, if you want to throw in this idea, with this idea, you got to be careful. So just be careful about this one. Castle short, knight to c6 being played, and king to h1. King to h1, you just try to move away from the possible rook to g here. And it's a prophylactic thing. Also, potentially, if you're getting checked over the dark square diagonal, a7 to g1. So you need to keep this in mind. King h1 prophylactically being played by white here. Bishop d7 developing. Maybe you're going to castle long with black. You never know. Knight to b1 attacking with tempo the queen. You could have played knight to d1, but knight to b1 does hit the queen, forcing them thus. So retreat. Again, fairly equal. Queen to b5. The idea would be that if you're taking the queen, knight's going to take back and attacking with tempo of threatening c2. Not that you can't defend against it, but just saying you want to provoke those trades, limit the versatile, very active white queen, and replace it with a black knight hitting at c2 and thus the fork. Queen to e3. Now white wants to reject that one because you may be very well attacking the black queen with tempo. Maybe you're going to use a pawn to attack the black queen. So now d5 being played. The bishop finally can breathe a little bit, but along this diagonal. So the bishop now is free to go and challenging the pawn in the center. But more importantly, of course, the bishop on e7 connects with the queen. Takes. Now, obviously, you can't take because it's pinned. You can't take. The king would be in check. So knight to e7, the play here. You could take on e6, but you got to keep in mind that when you take on e6, they're going to be taking back eventually, and yeah, you may want to postpone that one, and rather than taking on d6, you go with the c4 because there is another thing here. Also, the pawn on d5 is being attacked twice by the pawn and by the knight, so you got to keep this one in mind. And all in all, c4 had been favored here by Boris Spassky, defending this guy twice. And probably he plans to get the knight also in the game. Probably d2. That might be a very good square for the knight on b. Right? Knight to f5. Now, what I wanted to tell you guys, there are two main ideas. So this is the critical moment of the game. Move number 17 for black. Bobby Fischer. Very, very much equal, so to speak, if you may allow me the pun. Very equal here for black. And there are two main ideas that black may be going with. One is by far the best, one is so and so. So the best move here, in case you ever reach this position, for our friends here, the commentators and the engines very, very much favor the idea with h4 coming down the board. By the way, this is the target. So they favor the h4 coming down. And now let's just play something active like knight d4, looking for increasing pressure on e6, and the engine gives h3 as the next move to be played here. And if you may wonder why, it's because the bishop and the rook together colluding and dismantling the pawns, protecting the white king. So just keep this in mind as an idea. If you ever reach this position, the idea would be, well, you know something, let me just play it. By the way, that didn't happen in the game, just showing it to you. Something active, and g3. And now you mustn't take the pawn here. You got to go on g4, and then we might be having this guy here. And it's very playable. Again, equal with big chances for both white and black. Sicilians being incredibly sharp. So if this were to happen, obviously you totally don't want to take here. This is a disaster. Okay, you don't want to take this one here because all sorts of things may happen and you're actually not going to like it. So let's just go back. By the way, if this thing were to happen in the future, remember h4 is the real deal to play being black here. But he played knight f5, right? I mean, looks like from a human point of view, it's just you attacking the queen with tempo. Now, queen goes over to d3. h4 being pushed, but the situation had changed dramatically now. Bishop to g4, obviously counteracting the bishop on d7 if there is any pawn taking at some point in the future, that is. Knight plays on to e6 because, yeah, he didn't want to lose that knight, and also he wants to attack on c4 twice, which is attacked by the knight and by the queen. Knight to d2, naturally now defending the c4, and f5 trying to kick this guy away. But the mark of a really powerful, strong grandmaster is you attacking with tempo, creating another move. So rather than moving now the bishop to safety, which by the way don't mean you can't do that. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't play bishop f3. Don't get me wrong, of course you can. But a3 actually attacks the queen, the black queen with tempo. Queen goes on b6. And furthermore, that's a nice little fork here. Luckily for black, if I may say that, although they are in big positional disadvantage here and tactical soon to be, so luckily for black now, there is a maneuvering to which they actually saving face, so to speak, because of the queen b5 attacking the white queen on tempo. And if you actually take the black queen, a knight's going to take back, thus you saving your material. But of course, Boris Spassky is a very smart and incredibly insightful individual. And queen to c3 here. You refuse the trade and you go for the rook in a corner. Okay, so look how elegant this is. You don't even bother. And of course, you're actually threatening big stuff here right in the corner. Bishop had been taken on g4. But he says, look, I'm going to take your rook, but first thing first, let me just attack your queen one more time. Okay, so he goes after the black queen. And now that's very, 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 very critical. And now Bobby says, yeah, well, you know, if it's that difficult, why not just making it a complete mess? He pushes h3 on the mine again, the g2, defending the pawn, taking the queen, by the way, and takes with check, captures the g2 with check. So that's non-negotiable. King takes, and rook goes to h3. Okay, but that's already losing for white. Obviously, queen is being attacked. You're not gonna lose your queen. You're gonna move the queen away. f6, increasing the pressure on e6. Okay, which is defended twice. You attack it twice, but hey, the prospect is absolutely huge. As soon as you get a rook or something, I mean, not mentioning the c6, it's just enormous attacking power over there. And of course, c6 coming into the game, and very much soon would be this concluded because c6 attacks the black bishop. Okay, so this is really problematic for them. Bishop goes on c8. D takes on e6. Of course, we got a threat of a check here. So, I mean, it's going to be very, very soon, shortly. And the pawn had to take. Rook from f over to e1. And attacking on e6 twice, obviously. Bishop on e7, but there is another elegant reply here. Rook e1 takes on e6, and now black just simply resigns at this stage here. Okay. Yeah, this knight e3 doesn't mean anything. Practically, pretty much everything wins here. King g1 being given as the best, but also rook takes wins as well. So there is no game that might be happening here. If there is any bishop e6, you're going to take back, obviously. With the queen, this guy is hanging all the time. All right, there is no knight e3 coming. But instead, there is a rook coming here. So this is just so much over at this stage. Therefore, black had resigned. And if I am to go back just a little bit, guys, to make it a bit more obvious in our memory, this is the moment. This is the moment. This is move number 17. I think I said 18 previously in the opening, but that's okay. So you guys, important to retain the main idea. The engines are recommending here, if you ever play the Sicilian Najdorf, they recommend them to go with h4 and h3 as way more aggressive than knight f5. Just keep this in mind here. That's important. Little detail, for the level club player that they want to do something serious. I think this is also to remember for your future games. H4, H3 rather than knight f5. Big, big, big difference, and it might be more positive outcome for the player with the black pieces. Thanks for watching this game number 11, guys. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so we can meet up on my live streams and we can discuss maybe points from this particular game or many other wonderful games of chess history. And I'll see you guys very soon.